I've got a special high stakes poker episode for all of you today as we're hitting 2 cities for the price of 1. That's right, we're traveling the south to battle against some of the biggest creators in the game and get involved in massive pots. Our trip starts down in the Sunshine State at the Palm Beach Kennel Club where we buy in for $5,000. We're greeted today not only by some locals but also by our esteemed poker coach Alvin and none other than Lexo Poker himself. In the very first hand we get rewarded with the best hand ever created, Pocket Aces, and Lexo opens it up to 75. A 3-bet is in order, I make it 225 to go, and the flop is no good, 10-9-9 with 2 hearts. Obviously with Pocket Aces we have 2 pair, but I say no good because there's a ton of hands that are going to catch up on turns and rivers. When Lexo checks it over to me, I think a small down bet is in order. I bet, he calls, and the turn comes the King of Spades. The King of Spades is definitely going to improve me when I have Ace King and King Queen. However, Lexo probably will have more of the Queen Jack. Still, when he checks to me, I like going for a medium-sized bet here of $500. He relinquishes his hand. Jack 10 offsuit is no good, and we're taking down hand number 1 of the night. The $50 straddle's on in this one. I make it $150 to go with Ace Queen offsuit. Lex is in the straddle and decides to 3-bet me to a large sizing of $600. If you were to 4-bet, Ace Queen offsuit is one of the best candidates to do it, probably going in the neighborhood of around $1,500, but I take a little bit more of a passive route, just put in the call. We're going heads up to a 6-4-3 with 2 spades flop. In position is nice because I get to see Lex start with a check. I debate going for a bet here, but I think he'd float me one time with a hand like Ace King, so I decide to check behind and get some valuable information on the 8 of diamonds turn. When Lex checks for a second time, he's basically giving up on this hand. I don't think he ever does this with a pocket pair. This is most likely Ace King, King Queen, or maybe even the exact same hand as mine. So let's get him off some chops here. I decide to go for a very small bet here. Lex folds his King Queen offsuit, so he had him dominated, but this 1.6k pot back over to me. Alright, I'm in the $25 blind. Ian raises it up to $100 and I decide to defend 9-8 offsuit. The flop comes Queen Jack 4, giving me a gutter to the straight, and the action goes check check on the flop. The turn is a disaster. It comes the 10 of diamonds. In my head at the table I'm thinking, holy crap, I just turned basically the nuts, but look at Ian's hand. He has the nuts.
Wolfgang got the bottom end of the straight. This could be costly.
He has me absolutely smoked. Good thing though, the pot is only $215. Let's see how much I lose in this hand. I check it over to Ian and he goes for a bet of $300, over betting the size of the pot. Alarm bells are going off in my head. I was gonna go for a raise on the turn, but because he chooses such a large sizing, I decide just to call. When the river card comes the Ace of diamonds, it now degrades my hand even further. Any king has me beat and any 2 diamonds also has a flush. So I decide to check it over to Ian, expecting to have to call one bet of around $500 to $800, but we get let off the hook easy in this one, you guys. He checks behind with Ace King offsuit, probably scared that I picked up a diamond draw on the turn or was chopping against straights. He turns his cards over and I turn mine over as well, letting him know that this pot should have been way more than $815.
What? Yeah, I think Ian checked there because he thought it was going to be a chop pot anyways. Oh my God.
Alright, Lexo opens the button to $75. Eddie puts in the call with my favorite hand from the small blind, and now I look down at pocket 8s from the big blind, and I decide to come in for a nice size 3-bet to $425. Actions back over to Lex, who thinks I'm getting out of line here and comes in for a 4-bet to 1.1k. That's going to get rid of the pocket 7s. Actions back over to me. I'm obviously filming. You can see my phone stand there for the YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels. And I hadn't had that many interesting hands tonight, so I decide to put in the additional $675. We're gonna go heads up out of position to a flop, which comes Ace, Ace, Jack. Not exactly what the doctor ordered with pocket 8s. I start with the check. Lexo goes for a very small bet of 425. Remember, the pot is only 2.3K. So yeah, that is a very, very small bet. Even though he easily could have kings, queens, jacks, ace, king, ace, queen, I have to put in the call for that price. We spike an 8 on the turn. Well, stacks might get in and we could win a massive one. But when I put in the call on the flop, the turn is not good for us. It comes the 6 of spades. Check it over to Lex once again, expecting him to bet large, and I fold. But he checks behind on the turn, giving me some ideas on the river. For one, we could spike an 8. For two, we might be able to pick up a good card to bluff on. And the queen of spades kind of is one of those cards. We easily could represent king 10. We could represent a backdoor flush. But I've pocket 8s, I have a little bit of showdown value. Even though I don't expect to win this any more than 1 out of every 10 times, I check it over to Lex, waving the white flag. Let's see what he has here before we see his action. He has ace-king offsuit. So yeah, he just flopped the absolute world there, and obviously he's gonna go for a bet on this river. What's that? Lex checks behind with ace-king offsuit?
Oh, he checks back? What?
Letting me get off a little easier there? Well, I definitely wasn't calling with pocket 8s, but very surprised to see him check behind there in that 3.2K pot. And once again, I feel like I could have lost more in that hand as well. This next hand starts with Ian opening up to 75. Mike comes in for a 3-bet to $500. I find myself in the big blind with American Airlines. Pocket aces, the best hand ever created. There's a ton of action in front of me. How can life get any better? We're gonna come in for a 4-bet.
Yeah, here's a hand for
Wolfgang. Okay, yeah. Let him do his commentating thing. This is gonna make the blog. Bing!
I don't need to go large because it's gonna come off very strong. I go 1.1K. Mike is back over there in the hijack, who puts in the call. Looking over at his stack, he doesn't have much behind. Shouldn't be a problem getting the money in until the flop comes king, king, 6 rainbow. If I could think of a bad board, king, king, 6 would definitely be it. You could easily have a hand like king 10, king, queen, ace, king. So I decide to start with a check. Mike checks behind and the turn comes the jack of hearts. At this point, we're either way ahead or way behind. If he has a hand like queen jack or jack 10, well, that's a good card because now he catches up. I decide to give him some rope and check it over to him. If he has a king, I don't want to go for a bet and then he raises me and puts me in a tough spot. So I go for the check call option, but we don't get the option when Mike checks behind. The river card now surely we're going to go for a bet on until it comes the jack of diamonds. So now we're losing to all of his jack X, all of his king X, and I'm not exactly sure what we're beating at this point. I decided to check it over to him once again, allowing him to bet. No, he checks behind with ace 3 of diamonds. He turns it over thinking we're chopping 2-pair versus 2-pair, but after I turn over my second ace, he knows he has lost the hand. 2.3K coming my way. Maybe I go larger pre, maybe I bet the flop. Who knows? It just kept getting worse and worse for my hand. That was the last hand. We bought in for 5K, topped up 6K more, cashed out for $11,590, so a profit of $590. We're moving quickly though, as shortly after we hop on a plane over to Texas to battle on the Champions Club livestream. We buy in for $6,000 this time and are immediately battling versus none other than the legend Slick Rick himself. Slick Rick opens the button to 150 and I decide to defend with a suited jack 8 of spades. The flop comes queen 5 deuce with 2 hearts and I decide to check call a small bet from Eric. The turn gives me more possibilities with a 6 of spades still. Starting with a check seems like the best option, and Slick Rick decides to check behind. That gives me some ideas on the 4 of clubs. I think I can get him to fold a hand like pocket 3s, pocket 4s, ace deuce, maybe even a hand like ace 5. Jack 8 of spades obviously has no showdown value, so I decide to go for a bet, and Eric finds the fold with bottom pair 10 deuce of diamonds going into the muck, and hand number 6 coming over my way. We're playing the nit game now for $50 a pop. I still have my button in front of me and J-Win opens up the cutoff to $150. I find myself in the small blind with 5-4 of diamonds. Gonna come in for a 3-bet and I like a large sizing here. 625 seems just about right. Action's back over to J-Win in the cutoff, who decides to put in the call. He has his button in front of him as well. Gonna be calling a little bit looser, I suppose. And the flop comes ace 5-7 button with 1 diamond. So backdoor flush idea, backdoor wheel. We have a pair of 5s. I think this is a pretty good board. Also going to have the range advantage on an ace high flop. So I go for a c-bet of $400. Expecting J-Win to either fold a lot of his hands like Jack 10 suited or 8-9 offsuit, stuff like that. But he decides to actually not even call me. He goes for a raise to $1,200 and definitely a strange line. He could have 5-7 suited. He could have either a set of 5s or 7s. I don't really think he would be raising with an ace-x holding. If the only value he's raising here is 2 pair and sets, I think he's gonna have a lot of bluffs to balance out that range, just trying to get me to fold a non-pair of aces, exactly like the hand that I have. So I'm gonna draw the line in the sand, put in the call, out of position to the turn we go, which comes the 9 of diamonds. It's important for me to call on the flop sometimes when I have double backdoor ideas like flush and straight possibilities. If I'm always folding my bottom pair backdoor draws, well, I'm gonna get exploited a ton. The 9 of diamonds is great. Obviously, we pick up that flush draw. I start with a check, expecting to face another bet in front of me, but J-Win checks behind, bringing in the 10 of hearts on the river. The river really shouldn't change too much. I'm trying to get to a showdown. I check it over to J-Win, who snap jams all in for 42.60, which is effectively my stack. I let out a little bit of a chuckle knowing there's no way I'm calling here with a pair of 5s, but I'm just really curious at this point what he has. I muck my cards and he has to turn his over in order to get rid of that knit button. He shows me 9-10, so turn pair, river 2 pair. I made a great call on the flop, but it just goes to show you, even though you have bottom pair and you're ahead massively on the flop, it's gonna be pretty tough to end up winning the pot. You gotta fade a lot of cards. All right, I find myself in the $100 straddle. Slick Rick opens up the small blind, Ham puts in the call from the $50 straddle, and I'm gonna defend here with 6-4 offsuit. Off to a flop we go, which comes 9-8-7 with 2 clubs. I flop myself the open-ended straight draw. Slick Rick slows down and checks on this flop. Ham takes the betting lead and fires out for 400, and of course I'm going nowhere, putting in the call. We pick up Slick Rick as well, going to the turn, which comes the 5 of spades. Bang, we turn the straight. Unfortunately, the action checks all the way over to me. I would have loved to see a bet from Ham, and then I probably would have sprung the trap, put in a raise. Instead, I have to do the betting myself.
Wolfgang not getting bonus points for his 6 card straight.
And I fire out pretty big here for $1,400. Action's back over to Slick Rick, who I don't expect him to have that good of a hand here. Of course, he probably never has a 6 in his hand, so at best, he has 2 pair or a slow played set. So when he goes for the jam, I'm loving this because I think he has a set or 2 pair and I'm way ahead. He raises it to 7,500, which has both of us covered. Ham folds, I put in the snap call, and we're gonna run this river 1 time. Before the river comes out, Slick Rick turns over King 6 of diamonds, so I know it's a chop. How does he have King 6 of diamonds here? Just have a set 1 time. But no, we're gonna end up chopping this on the blank river, giving him a pair to go along with it.
King of hearts, so Ham would not have gotten there, and Rick and Wolfgang chopping this one up.
Slow roll incoming, there we go.
And before I turn over my cards, I give him a little bit of a slow roll because he's chuckling. He knows that I could definitely have 10 jack. Just want him to think that we have him beat for a few extra seconds. All right, hand number 74, knit game back on. Outlaw raises the hijack. J-Win puts in the call. Ham does as well. Great squeeze spot for myself with Jack King off. I make it $2,000 to go, and J-Win calls. The flop comes Queen 7-3 rainbow, and I bet out small for $500. J-Win puts in the call once again. The turn bails me out on the King of spades. I decide to get tricky, and the action goes check, check, bringing in the 4 of diamonds on the river. If I had some sort of busted draw like Jack 10, Ace 10, Ace Jack, probably want to shove all in here, so I definitely have to do that with top pair.
So now Wolfgang, can he extract a bit more value in this bloated pot? Instead, Wolfgang does just rip it.
I rip my entire 2580 in the middle. J-Win goes into the tank, but he's a good player, makes a disciplined fold with his ducks. Wow, he's gonna look me up light there, and we are getting rid of our knit button and taking down an 8K pot. Let's go. Another good squeeze spot for us here with 6-7 of diamonds. There's an open and a call. I go large once again, and Ham decides to put in the call, bringing us off to a 10-7-4 with 2 clubs flop. The action goes check, check, bringing in the 9 of spades, and when Ham checks it over to me for a second time, I really want to bet for protection here, try to get him to fold a hand like king, queen, king, jack, queen, jack, all of that good stuff. So I go for a bet of 525, and we end up getting looked up. In the river comes the ace of spades, which I actually like. If you had a hand like 10-8 or 7-8, 7-6, hands that had us beat or were chopping, we now could represent that ace and get him to fold. So when he checks it over to me for a third time, gonna go for a nice chunky value bet type size of 14.25. I expect that to get a lot of fold. Pocket 6s, pocket 5s, pocket 8s, all of those hands are going to find the fold, maybe even folding a hand as strong as 10 jack, 10 queen. But when I bet it, he snap calls me and turns over ace jack offsuit, floated me on the turn with a gutter, binks top pair, taking down a $5,600 pot. How did I lose that much in this hand with 7-6 of diamonds? All right, this is the hand I was alluding to earlier. This hand is gonna get massive. If you guys have not already liked and subscribed, please do that, because this hand is definitely worth it. There's a raise to 300, and tie in the hijack comes in for a 3-bet to $1,000. What do I look down at? Pocket kings, only fitting the Cowboys in Houston, Texas.
Oh my. Big hand alert. In the straddle, after it folds around, Wolfgang, King Kong.
Have to come in for a 4-bet. Don't want to go too large, but I think I make it a little bit too small here. I make it $2,200. Probably want to go a little bit larger to 2,500 to 3K, but a 4-bet is going to be strong either way, so maybe the small sizing makes them think I'm dicking around. Let's expose Waters' hand. He has pocket 10s. Very tough spot for him, but facing a 4-bet, I think he knows what to do. Yes, he does. He folds his cards back over to tie in the hijack. We're gonna keep his cards concealed because he puts in the call in position. Off to a flop we go in a bloated pot, $4,700 in the middle. And that's just the beginning of this hand because the flop comes queen, jack, deuce, rainbow. I'm out of position against tie, and let's just think about his range for a second. When he calls a 4-bet, he's gonna have hands like queen, jack suited, ace, queen, maybe even a hand as strong as jacks or queens that don't want to 5-bet. So I think mixing in some checks here with pocket kings can't be a bad play. It's gonna keep us balanced when we're checking with a hand like ace king. So that's what I do, and tie checks behind, bringing in the 3 of hearts on the turn, and now it's full steam ahead. Gotta get value from my overpair. I go for a nice milky sizing here of $2,500. I was thinking there for a second, how much do I bet on the turn in order to easily get stacks in on the river? I bet 2,500, leaving myself with 4K behind. If he puts in the call, we're playing a nearly 10K pot, 4K behind, no brainer shove on the river. Ty likes his hand. After checking behind on the flop, he decides to put in the call, and the river comes about as bad as you could hope for with kings. The ace of diamonds. Kings are definitely an ace magnet.
Oh, and the ace of diamonds. Not the river that Wolfgang wanted.
And all of his hands that I was beating on the flop and turn, well, a lot of them are catching up. Ace queen, ace jack, and also suited ace king catches up on the river as well. Looks kind of dumb, but I feel like my only play here is to check and hope that he checks behind. Can't be betting for value anymore. I just don't beat anything. I mean, if you guys can think of a hand here that I beat, well, you're probably a better player than me. I check it over to tie, expecting him either to check behind or shove it all in, considering I only have 4K behind, but instead he goes with option C and fires out for $1,200. $1,200 into the $9,700 pot. I mean, how can I fold with a hand as strong as kings? But I'm thinking about it for a while. I'm talking out loud, talking to myself, talking to Ty, talking to the announcers.
So tilting because it's one of those spots where it's like, yeah, I just have to call.
Yeah, you're just
because the price, but
getting 8-1. What are you gonna do?
The price is so good, but it just, you're beat. You know it.
I just can't believe that the ace of diamonds came on the river, but I just can't find a hand that I beat. I really want to fold, make a disciplined fold here and save $1,200. But at the end of the day, the price is just way too good. I toss in the chips knowing I'm going to be shown the goods 9.9 times out of 10. Sure enough, I call, he turns over ace queen of spades, had him right where we wanted him on the flop and turn, only to get bailed out on the river with a 5-outer. And Ty is taking down that massive $12,000 pot. Hand number 91 is going his way. and it just seems like I couldn't catch a break the entire session. After that, our chip stack is decimated all the way down to 2,600, but no fear, pocket sevens is here. My favorite hand is a raise to 150 and 2 calls. I decide to put in a 3-bet to $800, trying to induce action and get my stack in with pocket sevens. There's just no way I can lose, right? There's a call from Waters, and Jaywin now raises it up to 3K. Getting rid of Ham, I easily get my stack in here. I think Jaywin is going to be mixing it up pretty wide. We kind of want Waters to fold because our hand gets severely reduced when we're going 3 ways instead of heads up. But if we turn over his cards, we see he has pocket 10s. Going to be a hard fold from him for an additional 2,200. He eventually does put in the call. Jaywin has king, queen offsuit. So we are going 3 ways to a flop, have 18% chance to win it. I gave Jaywin a little needle, telling him I have the exact same hand as him.
Does anyone have king, queen suited?
I have king, queen suited.
You do?
You guys want to go? We have the same hand?
Yeah.
Boys?
You have a pair?
Yes.
But little does he know I have pocket sevens. We're gonna need to spike a 2-outer or some weird straight in order to beat Waters. Let's go off to a run out. We're gonna do it twice.
Oh!
There's your 10.
Oh, wow. Oh, set of 10s on the first board.
Oh my god!
I thought you said yes. You guys have a jack. You guys have a jack.
We're live.
Are we?
Wolfgang
has the are we because he has pocket sevens.
Oh, you mean
Looking
you got
for
diamonds now.
Oh, no waste of a 7 on board number 1.
Yes.
Jaywin does have outs.
Oh, I get there.
Set of 10s,
Nice.
good for 1
That's you,
board.
that's you.
Waters making
Yeah.
profit.
Oh, shit.
Damn it.
Still looking good.
Come on, case 10.
Jaywin looking for the last 10.
Oh, my God.
Oh, the 10s make a straight.
Straight on the bottom.
So sick.
Oh my god.
Waters makes a straight and is gonna scoop 6K worth of profit in that one. I'm down to 0, and of course, I'm not leaving the stream, you guys. I have my backpack on, but that was just a high-level strategy in order to turn that set. It didn't work out for us, though. We rebuy for $3,000 more. Right, there's not many hands left in the stream. I find myself in a great spot here when Slick Rick 3-bets to $500 over a Kamikaze open. Ham decides to cold call the 3-bet, and of course I'm going to 4-bet rip my entire stack in with Ace King offsuit for $24.25. Slick Rick folds King 9 suited. Ham is going to call with a mystery hand. Off to a run out we go, which comes Jack 8-7. No good for us. Hopefully he doesn't have some small pair like 5s or 4s. The turn comes a Queen of Diamonds. At this point, what are we beating anymore? Jack 10, King, Queen, Ace, Queen all has us smoked. Now Ace 4 has us smoked as well on the 4 of Spades river, but I turn over Ace King and he mucks his hand. What did he have? 10-3 of clubs. Shout out to Ham, giving me some action. He knew I was stuck and wanted to make the vlog 10-3 of clubs. Let him know down in the comments how much of a legend he is for calling it off for 3K with that bad of a hand. Well, at the end of the night, it was pretty rough for myself. I ended up losing $12,475, which has to be one of the largest losses I've ever had here at Champions Club. Obviously, that Kings versus Ace Queen hand was a major factor in that, but I just couldn't get anything else going. Remember, we ended up winning $590 at the Palm Beach Kennel Club, bringing our 2-stream total to $11,885 in the red. If you like this video from Champions in Palm Beach, make sure you click on the 2 on your screen right now, and I'll catch you as always in the next video. Peace!